Paul would think this is funny.
Testing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this service of celebration of life for Paul Quiring. I will read Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. We all know that Paul made joyful noises. Joyful noises to the Lord and also to all of us. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that made us, and we are his. God made Paul, just like God made each of us. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. We give thanks to God for Paul's life among us for almost 50 years. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. May we receive comfort in God's love. Let us pray. We thank you, God, for the privilege of knowing Paul. Thank you for his life, for all that we experienced with Paul and learned from him. We ask for your comfort for his family and friends who are gathered here today and those who are at a distance. Thank you for your deep love for Paul and each of us. Amen.
I had the privilege of being one of Paul's many, many friends. That young man never knew a stranger, but my husband and I were both very blessed to have him joyfully greet us each time we entered his grandmother's home when he was visiting. And it's my great honor to share his life sketch with you. When someone's sole existence is to make the world a better place, one smile at a time, it takes one to forget the craziness of this world. Paul M. Quiring died on January 13, 2025, at the age of 49. He was born on May 14, 1975, in Garden City, Kansas, to Leo and Jeannie Munoz. At 3 years of age, Paul became a member of the Quiring family. His parents are David and Lillian Dick Quiring of Liberal, Kansas. Paul was an active participant at Calvary Mennonite Church in Liberal. He enjoyed music and sang with enthusiasm. He attended Lincoln Preschool Elementary School, West Middle School, and Liberal High School, and volunteered at the Liberal Good Samaritan Nursing Home, Mid-Kansas Air Museum, and Liberal Public Library. After high school, long-time caregivers expanded Paul's world, making community participation a reality. Paul made new friends at Burger King, Brahms, Dillon's, the Liberal Recreation Center, the Etc. Shop, Circle D Appliance, the Community College, the Southwest Medical Center, numerous businesses and eateries. Paul loved daily car rides, playing with cards and cash registers, listening to stories and music, and talking on his phone. Paul's passion was people, shouting greetings to neighbors, giving hugs, greeting friends and customers within the community, inquiring about their children and pets, and being an engaged listener. He never forgot the name of any person and frequently gave nicknames to his friends. Sticky notes conveying messages of love, hope, and encouragement have been hand-delivered to hundreds of people. No one he met will forget his gentle soul. Paul embraced life. His unconditional love and abundant joy brought happiness and cheer to countless lives and soothed many a wounded and lonely heart. He was a ray of heaven to earth come down. Paul is survived by two aunts, Ruth Ann Jacob Abraham of Austin, Texas, Patty and Jim Apperson of Scottsdale, Arizona, two sisters, Stacy Cunha, Liberal, and Sherry and David Witzke of Liberal, three cousins, Damian Lowe of Wichita, Nathan Abraham of Austin, Texas, Sarah Abraham of Austin, five nieces and nephews, Jackie Schrag, Derek Schrag, Matthew Schrag, Billy Cunha, Connie Cunha, and Paige Witzke, two caregivers, Sherry Miller of Rogers, Arkansas, and Danita Buckman of Tyrone, and numerous friends and work buddies. Paul was preceded in death by his paternal grandparents, Ralph and Rosa Quiring, his maternal grandparents, Bill and Ruth Dick, and his uncle, Donald Quiring. A celebration of life gathering is being held today at the McKinley Administration Center, 308 East 1st, Newton, Kansas. FOSFA will be served. A pink celebration of life gathering in Liberal, Kansas will be 1 to 4 p.m. Saturday, April 8, 2025 at the Liberal Girl Scout Cabin in Light Park. Come and go, refreshments served. Death is not extinguishing the light. It is putting out the lamp because the dawn has come.
Jackie Shaw was not able to make it, and I was asked to read 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8a. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails.
Well, for those of you who don't know, my name is Art Garfunkel. I don't quite qualify as Clint Eastwood. So, being Paul's dad was a big adventure, a 50-year adventure. It was an amazing ride. It was joy, it was a privilege, it was an amazing blessing. Blessing beyond measure. Can't even speak it. It's so amazing. And one of the things that I find so remarkable is the spiritual lessons that Paul taught me. And those spiritual lessons, he didn't teach me because he was so wise and so learned or anything like that, but just because of who he was and how he acted. And those lessons have soaked into me over the course of 40-some years. And I want to share those with you. These lessons I've learned in two different ways. So I've learned them from the words of Jesus as written in the New Testament. So learned them that way, had them demonstrated to me by Paul, and the way that really soaks into me. So these three lessons are, number one, it's simple. It's simple. It's not simple in the sense of 1 + 1, but simpler than that. It's simple. And the second lesson is, it's love. It's purely love. And the third lesson is, it's everything. So, like I say, I learned these three lessons both from Paul and from the words of Jesus. When Jesus was preaching and teaching, there was a man called Nicodemus that came to see Paul. And Nicodemus was kind of a good guy. He was a person who was interested in spiritual things. He was a teacher to the people of Israel. He recognized Jesus' ministry, and he said something good is going on here. And so he went to see Jesus, and when he had this little interview with Jesus after dark, Jesus jumped right into it. He told him the message, and Nicodemus basically said, huh? How can that be? And Jesus went a little further, and Nicodemus says, I don't get it. And Jesus said, kind of impolitely, what's wrong with you? You're a teacher of people about spiritual matters. How can you not understand this? And to Jesus, these spiritual lessons were simple. Jesus would tell parables, and after he told a parable, the disciples would go, what does that mean? And Jesus would say, are you really that hard to understand? And all of this is by way of saying, what is the most important spiritually is right in front of us. It doesn't require deciphering, it doesn't require reading a lot of books, it doesn't require climbing the mountain to talk to the guru, it doesn't require any intellectual activity, it just requires spiritual sight. And the most important things in life are right in front of you, just see them. Paul saw them. Paul understood that people were more important, that love is what you express, that a friendly greeting was effective spiritually in making contact with people. And I saw that demonstrated day after day, year over year, in the way that Paul acted and what he did. So that's the first lesson. It's simple, and it's profoundly simple. Absolutely simple. The second thing is it's love. Jesus taught about love. He taught about God's love. He told a story about, if you people know how to give good gifts to your children, if your son asks you for a fish, would you give him a scorpion? If they ask you for bread, would you give him a stone? Well, no, because that's not love. And Jesus also spoke about God's love as natural and certain, and as a kind of a base that you work from when you talk about spiritual things. And so for Paul, it was all about love. Nothing was more enjoyable to him than getting to know a new person. And certain people he clicked with, and certain people he had to work a little harder on. But those that he clicked with, it was amazing. One of the last days of his life, he was in the hospital, he was feeling better, and the nurse started talking to him. It was a nurse named Kelsey. And Paul just lit up, smiled from ear to ear, looked her in the eye, wanted more contact, wanted to learn something about her, wanted to connect with her. This is the basics of love. We who are fully mentally confident don't get that all the time, but Paul always did. And so love was always on his mind, in his heart, what he expressed and what he wanted from you. When Jesus was in the temple one time, it was a little tense because the Pharisees were there and the temple guards were there and the people from the Sanhedrin, and they would challenge Jesus. Said, what are you doing in the temple? Why are you teaching like this? What's your authority? And he had a little confrontation there, but that was over, and he went on about preaching and teaching in the temple. I could see his disciples being a little bit tense, looking over their shoulders saying, well, when are the soldiers going to arrest us? When are they going to run us out of here? But Jesus kept preaching and teaching. At one point, a man came up to him and he said, and this man had been impressed by what Jesus said and thought he was kind of on target and liked what he was talking about. So he wanted to hear more. So he asked Jesus the question, what's the first and greatest commandment? And Jesus' reply was, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul. And love your neighbor as yourself. That's a commandment that somehow Paul followed in the way that he lived. love commandment because it tells you to love twice. And I also call it the cream-filled donut commandment. When I was a kid, I didn't ever have donuts very often. And once in a while I got one. And boy, that's good, you know, that's creamy, it melts in your mouth, that's fat, sugar all together in one package. It's good. So I like donuts. And one time I got a donut and I picked it up and I bit into it, and inside of it was a cream filling. And I said, wow, I didn't know there were cream-filled donuts. But that's good. The donut's good, the cream filling's good, and that's just double good. And this cream-filled commandment is so essential that we get both parts of that. Love the Lord your God, and in that love, you love others. So you get a double blessing out of that. The final lesson is it's everything. And by that I mean, well, for Paul, people were everything, and making those connections and feeling that love and giving that love was everything to him. That was his life, you know. He'd rather do that than eat. He'd rather do that than play. He'd rather do that than listen to music. All things that he enjoyed, but that was the thing, and that is everything. So so when Jesus was preaching and teaching, he said, store up your treasures in heaven. He said, don't be distracted by the world. Don't put your values over here. Put your values in these essential spiritual things. And that commandment really says that. That commandment doesn't say, take care of business and while you're doing that, love somebody. It doesn't say, you know, build a big house and have a nice time and enjoy your life, and while you're doing that, make sure you understand about love. The first thing you do, the most essential thing you do, is live in that love that God provides and express it to others. And these are lessons that soaked into me through having that experience with Paul. So it's simple, it's love, and that's everything right there. There really is a sweet spot for human beings, and I don't think people recognize it. And that sweet spot, that good place to be, is knowing God's love, knowing that it covers you and is present all the time, and then knowing that that love is a resource and a reservoir that you can draw on, so that things that you think you can't do, you can do, because you have that place to draw on it from. Thank you.
Friends, please join me in singing This Little Light of Mine. The words can be found at your place settings. It's the second song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I ain't under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. I ain't under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Don't let Satan blow it out, I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan blow it out, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine till Jesus comes, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine till Jesus comes, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. we're going to move into a time of sharing memories of Paul. And I think there is a microphone that will be coming around, maybe? I understood, maybe there was.
Yeah. I'll grab it.
That one bang.
That one done? We'll use this.
Yep.
So anybody wants to share anything, I'll bring this around and you can tell us.
I've known Paul for, gosh, I don't know, probably since the early '80s. I used to come visit with his grandparents over here. And my first memory of him was maybe 10, but I can't say for sure, but around then. But it always impressed me, back in the, many of you remember if you're old enough, in the 60s and 70s, there was this guy, Andrew Carnegie, that said how to win friends and influence people. You know what his main thing was? Use the person's name. Remember his name. And what do we all remember about Paul? He knew your name. And I always was amazed in visiting with the Bill Dix. I don't know if Lillian and David coached him. When we were there,
We didn't remember.
he remembered our name. And I always remember, he's a Greenie Ken. And how are you? Greenie Ken. And he always remembered our name. And we're so friendly. And I always thought, well, boy, how did that guy attend one of those seminars? How did he pick this up? It was inborn in him to use a person's name. And that was part of his friendliness. And it was inborn. And I was always just amazed by that.
Well, I could add to that. I thought I was the only one that he knew. Because I've not lots of stories about that, and then I found out different. He knew everybody.
By name.
Yeah.
He would call Dad Truck because he saw him first time. Dad was coming out of a truck, and so he always called Dad Truck. And I always thought he said Chuck. I don't know if he really knew what my name was. He kept saying Truck. I'm like, I thought Chuck.
He'd always assign nicknames to people, so
Right.
he knows the name, and the nickname is more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that radiant smile into the picture too, and, because he said an awful lot with the facial expression. He was just full of enthusiasm and joy when he'd see you or anyone.
Everything had an exclamation mark on it.
Yeah.
I really don't want to talk in the mic.
We want to hear you.
Paul had just this soft heart with me. I loved him so much. And I met Paul through one of his caregivers. And she would bring him out to my office, and he would either come in or I'd go out and visit with him. And two things. He called me happy. And I always tried, I just loved him. I was happy Carla. And one day, probably that stands out to me more than anything is it was Valentine's. And Dave and Paul come showing up at the front door of my office, and he walked in and he was kind of shy, you know, I mean, not shy, but you know, he kind of stood back. And Dave goes, go ahead. And he came over and he gave me this little bear, and he had made me a Valentine's, and I am not kidding you, I'm a crier, and I was just lost with that. I know everybody probably in this room that met him, it's just, he was a blessing. And I'm so thankful that I got to spend the time with him that I did, because I just loved him. So, that's it. I am from Liberal, and that's how I met him.
David, why the turtle? on the table. Did he love turtles?
Yeah, so he loved turtles, and I think he loved them because they were slow. He sympathized with them. He loved turtles. He loved Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Because Rudolph, everybody gave him a hard time for being different. And then he also loved Alfie the Elf. You might hear that song. Alfie the Elf had a hard time because he couldn't see, so he'd always be hitting his thumb or hitting his knee or breaking a toe. And Santa finally got him some glasses, so Alfie the Elf was good at it. So I think it's not too much to say that Paul has a very special place in his heart for the unfortunate, for the downtrodden, for the spiritually distressed people.
I'll assume his favorite color is pink.
Yes.
And he loved, right,
So,
yeah, right.
Paul spent a lot of time playing at a desk, and he sort dominoes, and he'd move things back and forth and do this and that, but he always wanted sticky notes there. And so he either scribbled on them and handed them to you. So there you are.
There you
That's
are.
sticky notes. Or he'd hand you a sticky note and say, sign that. But it's just his way of generating interaction with somebody. And it's funny, that a simple thing like that says, I care about you. It's so basic.
One of the ways Paul interacted with us a lot when we lived with him, or we were visiting over the summer, is he would answer the phone, and then he'd come hand it to us, and we had to figure out who was on the phone. If I said, hello, Lillian, he'd say no. And he knows a lot of people that I didn't know. So
He
sometimes we
actually
can
had
guess.
called someone.
No.
Oh,
Pretend.
I see, it's a okay.
Always a pretend call. But
Okay.
You'd have to figure it out
You'd have
who
to
was
guess
on the
who it
phone
was.
before you could give it back.
Did he ever call me? Oh.
You're gonna have to just pretend.
How many guesses would he give you?
About
Many.
three. You get people
Hey,
for
hey.
it, tell it to us.
Yeah.
I'll start on this. We are Larry and I are part, and Dan are part of the extended family, Lillian's cousins, and I married into that clan. One of the things that used to really interest me, because I was a special education teacher, was to watch how Paul would sit and watch people so carefully when we had any of our family gatherings. We didn't get together that often for him to get to know us really well. So he didn't always, I don't think, always remembered our names. If I would tell him, yes, but I mean, he wouldn't we didn't seem enough for him to recognize us, that's all. But it was always very interesting to watch how closely he was observing things. And I always took that with great interest, and I always remembered that. Now, our boys are in their 50s now, and they both sent warm greetings to the family today, because they remember Paul. They remember interacting with him at our family gatherings, and they hadn't seen him in years. So that's been a very special.
I grew up across the street from Lillian and her family, and I returned to Kansas in the Where's Mary era. I would frequently with my mother visit Lillian and David and Paul when they would be here visiting. My parents were very good friends with Lillian's parents. And told him my mother's name, and he really enjoyed saying Viola, Viola, Viola. And that's the conversation that I remember most, was Viola, Viola, where's Mary, where's Mary, Viola, Viola. And so it, you know, it was really good. Challenging at times to have a broader conversation, but good to get to know Paul during that era, and also to know the special relationship he had with my mother.
David, could you help people introduce themselves so people know who they are?
Oh.
We've got diverse people here. If Paul was here, he'd.
We got-
I know this one.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with this?
There we go, yeah.
You go first.
I'm Mitch Wilson, doing the project form over here.
Oh.
So I've only known Paul for a short period, but. Walk in, hi Paul. He'd either say hi or he'd say he wants to go for a ride. This is my wife Sarah.
I'm Jan Hennis. My husband Dave and my son Lauren, my daughter-in-law Amanda. We are doing the excavating on the block across the street.
We've been watching.
It's been a very interesting project, but I have so long admired your Victorian house, and we lived at First in Maine, and I remember when you put the basement under it, so I was very excited. Lillian gave me a tour of their lovely home, and Paul was sitting at the dining room table, and just like you said, I said to my husband, he was so aware that there was someone else in the house, and his eyes followed me all over the room where I went. He very much knew I was there, but he was
Sizing you up.
and a very polite young man.
I'm Heidi Revere-Trier, and I serve as the conference minister for Western District Conference of Mennonite Church, USA, and Calvary Mennonite Church is part of our conference. So my experience with meeting Paul was together in worship, singing and paying attention to his father giving the message and worshiping together. Appreciate that experience.
I will introduce Vern. This is my father, Vern Janetz, and he and my mother, Helen, were in the liberal area for, 35, 40 years-ish, and attended the Calvary Mennonite Church also. And I know that's where they got to have many memories with Paul. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about that, Dad?
Well, I could say, he'd see me, and it was Helen. He knew that I belonged to her.
Good man.
It was good.
Yeah.
Bonnie, do you want to introduce all of us?
Well, I could.
Well,
Sure. Well, I think Chuck wants to introduce himself.
No, I don't. I believe I'm second cousin to Paul.
Would that be right?
Yes, you're first cousin to Mom,
Yeah.
or my mom is Shirley.
Yeah.
She's the oldest of the three girls. Bonnie's the youngest of the family, W.O. Schmidt,
Yeah.
right? My mom, which is my dad over here, is just Leonard, his wife, went to school here. She went to kindergarten school in this school. And he just told me when he came here, he's never been in this building before. And I always wanted to get in here too, and this is the first time I ever been. And it's a beautiful building, isn't it?
It's changed some since that era.
Right, it sure has.
I went here for 6
Did you go
weeks.
so the story with kindergarten, if you go out in the rural areas, they didn't have kindergarten. So they had, Mom was boarded here, and she stayed with Aunt Ruth and Uncle Bill's house that year, we come to school across the street to go to kindergarten. That's how much important in our family, education was important.
Yeah.
Because Grandpa was the superintendent at Gossel for what, 40 years or whatever.
Forever,
And they
40,
lived
yeah.
there. And all of us are teachers. I mean, the whole family. I taught 5th grade, and so it's.
Jim talked to, and.
Jim taught.
Certainly did.
Yup.
And I went to kindergarten here 6 weeks, and then I said, I'm going home. And that was when your dad was in Germany, and he wasn't here, and only grandma. No, I didn't.
We always loved coming here, see your
Yeah.
dad, mom, and enjoy it. I always loved the wakes under the stairs. And your dad talking about how strong he was and how big of hands he had and those things.
How good he
Isn't that
was
right?
at baseball.
He talked about being a baseball player. He's a great baseball. Apparently he was a great baseball player. He played with Ty Cobb and all these guys that.
Okay, hey, this is Jim Miller. He belongs to me. Oh.
I never forgot her name.
Paul
Always
remembered.
reminded me. I'm sorry. You know, the funny thing, all he needed to do was hear her voice.
Yeah.
Or he didn't have to hear her.
No, after we said Bonnie's coming, and he heard somebody on the steps, he was gone.
Or at his mother's funeral, we were upstairs, he was downstairs at Liberal, and Bonnie.
So let's go on to the next thing.
I'm Derek Schrod. Paul would be my uncle. I lived with the Quiring for a year and would visit every summer for quite a while.
I'm Lillian, and I actually have a story. Imagine that, it's a story for yours, When Paul was a little boy, he was in the preschool where I was a speech therapist. So that's really where I met him. And at our school, it was a standard practice that particularly the children that had special needs would call us by our first names. So my name was Lillian. He didn't say Lillian because he couldn't do 3 syllables yet, but that was my name. And so he would call me that when I would go get him, and we would be working and take him back to the class. Well, about, I don't know, probably a year and a half after I met him, his friend came to live with us. Now, this is what was interesting. People say that some people are smarter than others, and I'm just listening to this story. Okay. In the morning, I left the house about 7 o'clock, and our house was a block from the elementary school. So the routine was I left at 7. David would come with Paul somewhere between 7:30 and 8. During the day, if that was the day that I was to see Paul's speech therapy, I would go and get him. One day, and I would guess he probably lived with us maybe a year. We got back to the speech room, we're working, we're just clicking along, he's doing a really good job. He just stops. He just looks at me, the look that you're talking about, where he just kind of stares through you. And he was quiet, and no matter what I said, he wasn't gonna be talking, he just kept looking at me and looking at me and looking at me, and finally he goes, "Mama!" He didn't realize that the person that he left at 7 at the house was me, and that Lillian was at the elementary school, and over a year later, he realized we were the same person. Hey. Yeah, yes. And then we continued our speech lesson. That's how I met him.
I'd have burst into tears. I would have burst into tears.
I was just shocked. I couldn't believe that. I'm not, a speech therapist didn't pick up on that, and he didn't know I was, that I wasn't. Yes. Anyway.
Lillian, how old was he when that happened?
When he recognized that I was the same person, I would guess he'd probably be about 5 or 6. Same time.
So
Yeah.
you on the other side
side of that table?
I'm Sherry, I'm Paul's sister. I have lots of stories, I don't think I can this one. Yeah.
I'm Larry Grove, and Mary Lou is my wife. We're getting ready to celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary in a few months, so we hang out together for a bit. One of the things that I remembered about Paul is we got out of the car, and I'm not sure where it was. Anyway, he and I said, Paul? Where is she? And I said, who, she? She. I said, Mary Lou? Uh-huh. I think she's here too. She's in the house, I hope. He said, let's go see her. That's what we did. And I found that to be a very interesting way to me to be reminded of how important Mary Lou is to me. And I'm willing to go back and
After 60 or more. Where do you live now?
Oh, I'm in Lawrence.
And that's
Dan is my brother.
your dad, oh, okay.
Dan.
And you live over where we live, North Newton, right? Yeah.
I'm a violinist.
I knew, I've heard you play, I have videos of that.
I'm Gary Linebacker, and that's a foreign Mennonite name from Northern Florida. I came up David is a unique position in the world, having been related to both Paul and his brother Donald. Donald was my best friend, for most of my life since coming to Bethel. He was the extreme opposite. He never said anybody's name. He didn't speak much.
Take this and hold it for a minute. My hands are getting numb.
And after you got to know him quite a while, he was funny and the people who were around him couldn't get to know him. It took forever to get them open up a little. And so, hearing stories about me, I know that's your helping. Don was really so, the lesson here, I think, maybe every other church in the area will get that service.
So did you meet that Coastal girl at Bethel?
Yeah, I tried to woo her at that time. I was thrown asunder. But I put her up later.
Well, I just want to say, your grandpa or your dad was my superintendent, and your mom taught me Spanish. Oh, there you go. Okay.
And her,
Oh, Paul's aunt was one of my best friends at Bethel, Patty, David's sister. And just getting to know Paul in the last couple of years, you know, I don't know what he was like when he was young, but even now, he was very intent on our names.
hers especially. She saw me, down.
He did like us when we met.
I'm also in too.
10 fast, and we're friends, and this is Renee, my wife. We've just been friends with the Dick family for
Ever.
Lillian, I met Lillian, we were in Sunday school together at First Mennonite, and then she was probably my very best friend in grade school. And, I would go by her house at noon and hear about World War II and everything. Franklin Roosevelt, lots of things. Her dad was always, kind of telling me about that. Oh, my glasses. Lillian was always a good friend.
Yeah, we have lots of stories about that.
We were not gonna go there today.
No, not today. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
He kind of inspired me, the fact that I had a sister with cerebral palsy that died when she was 11, but she was not as well off as he was. She couldn't speak, couldn't walk. My mother carried her around for 11 years. So his mind's really interesting to me because there is something going on there that even though she couldn't say it, if I would go to her bed, she'd just go, kind of like that and smile at me. So in that way, he was very inspiring to me to know she had more going on than we realized probably. So thank you for that.
Emily, I'm Renee's cousin, and I would say Bill and Ruth Dick welcomed me into their home. That's how I met Lillian and everybody. Yeah.
I'm Ann Manonis, and I came into play about early 2000 when Mrs. Dick called me to come clean her house once a month, and then she passed away, and I continued even after the mess, all the things that we did in the house. I was there, and that's how I met Paul. It's hard to get things done because he was always saying, Ann, I love you. Yeah. And this is my husband Al.
Hello.
My name is Matthew Shrard. I am Paul's nephew. I'm Sherry's other son. And while I don't really have many specific memories, one thing that always stuck out to me was sort of just how everywhere I went as a child, not only was Paul friends with everyone was friends with Paul. Granted, the places we went to school would range from like Circle D to church. As a child, that might as well have been before.
Well, my name is Billy Jr. I'm Stacy's son. There's David and Lillian's grandson. And Paul would be my uncle. He's taught me a lot. I have a lot of memories with them, but I've been working at Circle D Appliance for about 7 years now. And every day it's it's gonna be a good day when he shows up. He would show up every day. And he would be waiting. He'd be greeting everybody at the door, ready to go to work. You could say he worked there himself. It was a job. I know that he's taught me a lot of life lessons too. How to love unconditionally. That you always have a smile on your face every day. It's always going to be a good day. And last but not least, you're not too old to be a kid.
Kevin and Cheryl Birch, I helped with the original remodel at their house where they're living.
Nathan Abraham, I'm Paul's cousin. I guess going pretty far back, I visited Lily and David and Paul, Stacy, and Sherry are my cousins, and it's kind of vague, but I just remember playing games with Paul, and then later when I got older, I didn't quite understand him, but I learned a lot of names of people that I didn't realize were real people that with myself. And he was always, I really enjoyed that he was really good natured.
Because we've been married almost 40 years, so you do really probably.
I kinda lost what I was gonna say. Anyway, we went to Sunday school at Ruth's house for many years, and Paul would be there. Paul always called Bev. Bev. And then right after that, it was, "Where's Mary?"
Is Mary coming? And I answered him every time. And it was always the same thing. She'll be here. We don't know when, but she will be here. And I think he's with Mary now.
Absolutely.
We never knew for sure who she was. I have an update. We purchased a house here on Pine Street, and we took Paul over there. We were getting fixed up. We took Paul over there, and as soon as he ran into the living room, he just did his thing where he looks around, and he looked at me and he said, "Mary's house." That's all I know. I was gonna say. And you created a home for her. I don't know, that was really, and he meant it. Yes.
Mary gets her own house.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's earned it.
I'm Darrell Leonard, and this is my wife Cindy. I'm a retired architect, and over the last several months I've worked with David and Lillian to develop a project that's being worked on right now. Unfortunately, I never really learned to know Paul.
But you designed his room.
But yeah, it was a unique experience to think about and to develop a living environment for Paul in that house.
We're Sam and Barbara Clausen from the Caribbean. We grew up aware of Harrisville and Ruth as kids. And then I had the special privilege of reconnecting about 10 years ago as they, others, Paul and Bev, that helped provide care to my brother when he came back to Newton, for which we're extremely grateful.
I'm Alan Rose. I'm one of the members of the building this original Sunday school. I've known Ruth from even before that because she was the librarian at Valley Center High School, where I went to high school. And Paul from Christmas gatherings, we often, whenever they were in town, we'd have a Christmas dinner Sunday right after the Sunday school. Everybody in that class was honorary members of the family.
I'm Linda Shelley. I already shared some, growing up across the street from Lillian and Ruth Ann and their family. And in the years that I've been back now as an adult, I've appreciated when Lillian and other family members come to the house, often able to get together, and that's really been how I've learned to know Paul. And I wouldn't say that he always remembered my name as I walked in, but he always wanted to know my name as we were visiting. That was important to him.
My name is Miriam Hubert Stoffer. I was Miriam Hubert when I lived in Liberal from 1991 to 1997. I went there because of a teaching job. I taught at the high school and at the elementary, and attended Calvary, so that is where I met Paul and his family. And it wasn't a large group, but we learned to know everybody there, and it was a nice community. And eventually, 4 years into my time there, I got married, and so my husband Chris joined me and became a part of the church and community there. So we've kept up that connection do that, but it seems like a lot of driving now. And I think, oh, 3.25 hours. It's like I tell people when I say I was a Western Canada Casino, it's a way to get there, but there's always nice people there. And my daughter Sapphire is here as well.
My name's Carla Wilson, and I've already spoken before, but I think one thing that I would say is I think Dave and Lillian were great parents. And they took very, very good care of him and was very loving and just did very, very well with him. He went with his dad a lot in his truck from work. So he was with his dad a lot, but at the house I got to know Lillian, and they were great, great parents for him. He was very, very blessed.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce my husband, Chris. He, for those of you that live in this community, he works at Knitzer Rowan Company. He's one of their accountants there. In those circles.
Yeah. I'm Beverly Scott Stiggy, and I'm pre-Paul because the Dick sisters allowed me to get driven around in their little VW bus. No, it wasn't a bus. Little VW thing, the red tin can. And so we went to high school with Ruth Ann, and then went to college a little bit with Lillian and David. I have a lot of information there. So Paul has come in later. The generosity of the Dick's, generosity of David, the loving attention that he's always given to Paul is just a very passionate human connection. And so I'm there. I'm watching the building. I'm being part of it too. Okay? So it's a blessing to be part of your gang.
And I am Stacy. I am Paul's sister. And there again, I too many memories and don't think I can get through it. So.
And I'm Alan Jantz, and this is my wife Joni. And I grew up in the Calvary Church and came to Bethel to go to school, but then upon graduation went back and taught at Hugoton for 4 years and continued to attend the Calvary Church in Liberal, and courted Joni long distance at that time and got married in '98, and we moved to Newton at that time. But I would just have to say ditto to everything that you have all said about Paul. His infectious smile, names everything.
Guess that's everybody. We missed anybody? Are we eating time?
Yep.
Okay, so feel free to grab some refreshments.
Did you want to finish off the
Oh,
program?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that was the teacher in me.
There you
The program. And so the next item on the program is to sing Joy to the World. And so as Paul would do, please enthusiastically join me in singing 2 verses of Joy to the World. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare Him room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. He rules the world with truth.
everyone to stay for a time of FOSPA and fellowship together. And also in memory of Paul, take those sticky notes with you to give to friends and strangers and clerks and colleagues and everyone. This is one of Paul's ways of saying, I see you, I care, you're important to me. We will close with a blessing from Numbers 6:24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his